Season 3, Episode 43, Decoded Podcast. I'm Roland Chidiak. He's Chris Clough.
This is the podcast that shouldn't have happened.
That's right, because I told Chris that I was not going to be able to podcast this morning because one of my kids had to be somewhere at a particular time, and I didn't think we'd have enough time. And then my son woke up and he wasn't feeling very well. And that was interesting because normally I would say to my son, let's push through this. But in the COVID times that we're living, and he just had a really busy and weird week at the beach, like we were up late, staying up late, waking up early type of thing, spending the whole day in the sun. Like it was a fun week, but different, right? And he's like, Dad, I'm not feeling so great. I'm like, no problem. Let's cancel what you had going on and just chill. So when I made that cancellation, that my first text was the cancellation that my son would not be participating where he was supposed to be. The second text was to you, Chris, saying, hey, this isn't happening anymore. I'm available. If you're free and you want to cast, let's do it. If not, it's all good. And then we jumped in and we've been talking. The on-ramp was like an hour. I guess we both had a lot to say. I feel like you had more to say in the on-ramp than I did. I was working on my listening skills, so I hope that you felt like you were heard, because I felt I was doing what I could to listen to you, to hear you, and to honor your words. So I don't know how you felt, but I'm telling you that's what I was doing. And so here we are, and we are live. So what I'm going to do is... it's not popped up yet. Usually there's a notification I get to the email and then I push it out because I would love to have more people. Leave us comments as they watch live. Like, give us something. If you've got a question or a comment about something we're saying, drop it in. Like, we're good that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you pushing that out?
I will be momentarily.
Okay.
Did you want to kick off the podcast with a particular topic, or do you just want to just roll and we'll see what comes?
I feel like there's this past week in particular, I've gotten more in the headspace of I feel like there was as we moved from March 13th to where we are right now, I feel like there was I spent a lot of time, and I'm still spending this time. It's an and. So now I'm going to get to my other headspace, but I spent a lot of time really kind of examining what I would say I feel like has been taken from me. So all the limitations, I've been looking at everything, moving into September with, from the point of view of scarcity, which is fine. Some people may argue, well, you could be creative when there's scarcity. Like, you can't do school the way you want to do. You can't do teaching the way you want to. You can't connect with people in the same way that you want to. So there's a whole lot of cool creativity that's popping up all over the place because of that. I get that. But there's also an element that kind of wears you down in that frame about not really having your hand on the rudder. So you're drifting, right? You're drifting. There's been some really fascinating conversations popping up in socials where I think people are starting to hit their limit with the drifting and they want to actively do something. I mean, the conversation is around what return to school looks like I won't say it's not becoming focused, but it's definitely more on fire. So you have a whole bunch of people that are lit up, sort of jumping into the conversation, saying what they believe should be the next version of school. And I think somewhere in there, I've started to try to compile a mental list about what it is I can do. Like, what is it that I can do to, and I don't know, is it make me feel better, make me feel less anxious, make me, I think probably what my new process is I'm trying to get further away from the feelings and get to action. So what is it that I'm going to do? And how is that action going to inform what I'm going to do next, as opposed to stepping back and saying, I feel stressed, I feel anxious, which I still feel. But I think part of it is also kept me from making decisions. That's kind of what's kind of popped up in my head, that somehow I haven't been making a strong enough effort to make decisions so that I actually have some data to push back on, if that makes sense. So this past couple weeks, my wife and I, my spouse and I, partner, there's the multi. I should actually ask her. I should ask her how she wants to be identified whenever Karen. I'll just call her Karen because that's her name. So right, like that's her name. So we've had a whole lot of conversations around coming to terms with what we're going to do next, and we've had the conversation around talking to our doctors. We've had the conversation that talks about talking to our own in-laws, like whether or not we're going to need support in September. We've had multiple conversations, so many conversations just between the two of us about, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? What are you thinking? So we've had all these conversations, and I feel like it's only been this past week, that we've started to say, okay, now that we've had all these conversations, what do we actively now need to do to get us from sort of abstraction to action? And it's not, I won't say it's better because of it. It's not better. But I am, the whole return to school, Staples' most wonderful time of the year commercial is not playing out in our house, right? We're talking strategy. We're talking tactics. We're talking bluntly about, no, you don't do that. Yes, you do that. And we're making it so dogmatic that I feel like we're kind of in martial arts training right now. And the stuff that we're telling our kids and what we're telling ourselves about how we're going to behave over the next few months is almost like, I feel like it's Goggin style. Like I feel like we're just digging into the discipline, taking action, and seeing what sort of results come out of that. So we've picked up our we've picked up all of our hand sanitizer and wipes. The kids now have so we're sort of working through the details of childcare. So the kids are going to be walking to and from school, so they have their keys. We've done the training as far as them opening and closing the door with their keys. Each kid actually even has one of those, those products that are advertised, the safe key or safety key. It's like a metal key that has a little hook on it, but it's kind of big. Like you can tap numbers with it. Yep. You can open a door. We all have one of those. We've talked about where, when we get home, the sanitation routine. We've talked about how to do mask management. So what do you do when you take your mask off? That's one decision we haven't made yet, though. We haven't actually made the decision yet around whether or not we're going to get lanyards for the kids, or they're just going to do the elbow. Put it over their elbow, you know what I mean? Like kind of put the straps, kind of wear it like an elbow pad. We've talked about how they're going to comport themselves in class with their own paper, their own stuff, the kind of gear. It reminds me actually of my first camping trip that Karen and I went on when we went to Algonquin, and packing in and packing out, leave nothing behind. So these are all the spaces now that we're kind of officially making decisions in order to make it through the day, as opposed to supporting emotional state. I guess it's not opposed to, in addition to supporting the emotional states of each other. But I feel the shift. I feel like we've shifted in our thinking. And I won't say that we're all, it's not a comfortable shift. Like we're not all good because we've had these conversations. But there was just something in me, something I think probably in Karen too. I won't speak for her, but there seemed to be something in my mind that I needed to start taking action in a way that made me feel like I was a part of the decision-making process. Because you and I have mentioned on a couple times, even in the on-ramp, that we feel like we're not being supported, clearly supported, from the leaders that should be supporting us. Now, even as I say that, I get the complexity of being a leader in this context. I get it. So when I say that I don't feel like I'm supported by leadership, I'm talking multi-level. I'm talking from where I sit all the way up to provincial level leadership. So my reaction to that is still to ask questions of that leadership and to push into that leadership. But I also have to make decisions for myself because I feel like I got all these new things on my radar.
I can appreciate a few things you've said there. One of which is that it's time to take action. That we can continue to ask questions to clarify our understanding or to continue to inform ourselves, but we must take action. And that there's been a shift in the thinking. And you and I talked a little bit about this earlier. And the way you put it now, I'm able to make a connection to what we were talking about earlier, where we were talking about, like, for example, when I go back to school and start setting up from my classroom, I'm assuming, and I told you this, I'm assuming that I will be given parameters around how to set up in terms of just some parameters. Like the desks are going to need to be 1 meter apart and things of that nature. I'm assuming. And when I said that, the look on your face was, really? Do you think are you going to leave it? Are you going to leave this thinking you're going to get something from someone else to direct you? Really? And then I said to you, yes, whether it's my union, whether it's my school, whether it's my school board, I do believe somebody's going to give me some parameters. But if they don't, then I will act. And then that's where
I was relieved. I was
Yes.
relieved when you said that part because, I was lit up.
That's an understatement that you were lit up. I could see the relief in your face. I could see your shoulders drop. It's almost like when I was talking, you came closer to the camera to like grab me and say, "What are you doing?" But then I told you, if I don't get anything, I will still act. I will inform myself. I will act. And then I saw you you chilled, right? You weren't so lit up. I think that's where a lot of us are going now. That's where we're going. I mean, we have no choice, right? If they tell us we're going back to work, okay, then we start to set up our mind frame, our mindset to do that. And I told you that if I'm given my parameters and I can't meet them, then I will inform my leaders. Hey, look, you gave me these parameters, it's not going to work. I've tried this and this, it's not working. So we got some things we can do here, some choices to make. You can come to my room and you can help me figure this out. Or you can just leave it as it is. But the bottom line is I'm informing you that what you're asking me to do, I can't do, in terms of, not that I can't do because I don't want to do it. It's not physically possible, or I don't have the materials I need to make it happen. And so then it's like, here you go. This is for you. And I don't see that as making trouble. I see that as being diligent, doing my job to the best that I can. And if I can't do it, I need to inform the people above me of what's happening and why it's happening. So for sure, we're moving in the direction of it's time to take action. Now, for this very reason, I enjoyed the week that I was away. So my family and I were away. We were at the beach, and I let everything go. So I was talking to a friend, and I told him that before getting to our vacation destination, my head was still in this game of what's happening right now as a teacher, as a parent who's sending his kids to school with this whole COVID thing, my issues with the government, and my lack of satisfaction with their plan for our return. All these things, I wouldn't let them go. And then I got to my destination and I let it go. I literally, like, it's literally like I took a backpack off and just put it in the corner. And I totally enjoyed the time away. I totally enjoyed my time on the beach. I felt like I was in a different world. It was pretty awesome. Here I am back at home now talking to you, but we're going away again. And so the backpack, I'm wearing the backpack right now, and I'm thinking about some of the action I need to take, but I will take that backpack off again on Monday when we leave to go away for the week. 100%. And it's almost like a gift to have what's happening now happen, because it's allowing me to go to another place. It's allowing me to separate my mind from what's happening in my work life to what's happening in my personal life. And I'm truly enjoying that. The time that I was away and the time that I'm going to be away next week, I truly am soaking up the time with my family as we enjoy ourselves and have family time, make family memories. Because when we come back from that, it's on. Like my older son has some high school stuff he needs to do. My wife and I need to start thinking about our return to our rooms and what we're going to do there, and the nitty gritty of COVID-19 and what we need to do to maintain a safe learning environment for our students, and then start to think about programming for our students. What are we going to do with them? How are we going to start the year? Where are our priorities? Things like that. So, and even if I could go to vacation mode for a moment, even on vacation, it was different, right? So we were not too far away from the beach, which meant we were not too far away from the main strip that leads down to the beach. And, there's a lot of good times there. That's where, like, you do your shopping, you try new food, you have fun. When you're not at the beach, you're like, hey, let's go to the main street. Let's check out what's going on. Let's have some good eats. Let's buy some stuff. That was very different this time around for us. Now, I saw other people live in normal, pre-COVID normal life. Like, I saw people no masks, no problem. I saw people no masks and not distancing. I saw a lot of, now I have to say, I don't know those person's lives. Like, so the group of teenagers or relatively young people I saw hanging out at the beach together, I don't know if that's their bubble. I don't know, and I don't care. It's none of my business. But it's interesting because I was with my bubble. So we have a bubble and we vacation with them and their family. So it's like, we know we're together. We're going to be together. I don't know about all these other people, but there are a lot of people not wearing masks. There are a lot of people not distancing. It was interesting because here I am on vacation at a beach, and the whole time my crew was very aware of distancing, of where are you going and do you need a mask to go there? Very aware. As I looked around me, it did not appear to me that other people had the same awareness. But again, I'm not in their heads. I don't know. But it was funny because one of the days we got to the beach, we went right up to the front of the beach and we parked ourselves. And we brought floaties and stuff. And when we weren't in the water, the floaties were positioned around us to ensure that there was a bubble between people walking up and down the beach and where we were. And so it's funny because my wife said, if you stand over there and you stare at the beach, it looks like nobody's physically separated. But when you're on the beach, you can see the little groups in their little pockets on the sand. And you can even see it in the water, right? At one point, the kid said, hey, we're going in the water. We said, no, you're not. And they said, why not? I said, look, there's nowhere for you to go. Like right now, everywhere within our eyesight, like a safe distance, there's people in the water. They've all got their little spots. There's no way you can go in there and be 2 meters away from people. At that point, it was that busy. And the kids didn't give us a hard time. They're like, okay, well, can we eat now then? Go nuts. Let's eat. And then when it cleared up in front of us, we went back in. Now, I do want to share an interesting story. I got a little bit aggressive on the beach. I forgot what my role in society was, and I got a little bit aggressive. So let me tell you what happened, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation. So we're at the beach, and it was busy. It was around 4:35 p.m., and it was still really busy. And my family and my bubble, so that's my sister-in-law and her 2 kids, my wife and my 2 kids and my sister-in-law and her 2 kids were in the water, and they were in floaties, and they were kind of playing around. So imagine there's 6 people, and they're taking up some space in the water. And there was this individual who was walking in and out of the water, and he was doing it the whole beach line. So he'd go into the water, he'd walk about 6 to 8 meters, and he was wearing a wetsuit. He had a headset on. He had a metal detector. He had like all this paraphernalia. So he was in there looking for something. And so he'd go in the water, he'd come out, and then he'd ever so slightly move maybe a meter to the side, and then go back in 8 meters, come out, move over. So he was literally like doing a grid, whatever. So he gets close to my family, and now I'm sitting on the beach and I'm observing my family and just soaking up the rays. And I see my wife, and I knew what was going to happen. My family was in one spot hanging out, and this guy was creeping closer to my family. And he got close enough that my wife said something. I said to my wife, "What did you say to him?" She said, "I told him, you're getting too close to us. Be aware. We're here. You're there. Don't come close to us. There's no reason for you to." And then he started telling her. So he didn't like that. So my wife is like, "We've been here for 20 minutes playing in the water. You're clearly doing something, but now you're going to have to figure out what you're doing because we're here. We're not moving." And his response is, "Well, I'm not moving either. I'm doing my thing." So I see this happening. I know what's happening. So take my hat off, glasses off, take the shirt off. I'm going in the water. And I was like, come hell or high water, this guy's not. Clearly, we've been there for an amount of time. Clearly, he's doing something. We're not moving. He's not moving. So I get over to the water and I say to him, "What's the problem?" And he's looking at me, and he's disturbed now because we're interfering with what he's doing. And I'm like, "You're seriously gonna like talk back to 2 moms and a bunch of kids in the water? How about you talk to me? We're gonna have a chat." So yeah, like this. And normally I don't think I'm like this normally, but I'm like, "We're gonna chat now." So what's your problem? And he's like, "I'm doing something here. Nobody else seems to care." I'm like, "You don't care either, because I've seen you get into people's faces. People are in the water hanging out, and you're literally this far away from them. You're not aware of the pandemic. Do what you're going to do, man. But there are people here before you were." And so he's like, he was like, he said something about, some people, and the beach was full of ethnic people. Some people seem to have a problem with this and others don't. And I said, "Well, guess what, partner?" I called him partner. I said, "I have a problem. I have a problem. So how about you mosey on and you go do whatever metal detecting you're doing. Stay away from my family." And then he walked away, and then I realized I should probably stop now. And I got in the water with my family, and him and I basically stared each other down for the next 10 minutes. Like literally, I'm talking to my wife and I'm staring at him and he's staring at me. And I said, what's he doing? And she said, "He's looking for nails in the water. So he's doing the beach a service." He told her, "I'm here to find nails in the water and remove them from the water." And then my youngest son says to me, "There are nails in the water?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "You think if this beach was full of nails, they'd be letting us out here doing this?" I said, "Of course there's the possibility there's something dangerous in the water. You can't control that. Of course, you could step here and hurt yourself. This is the unknown of the situation we're in. But I tell you what is known, that man's on a mission and he's doing his thing. But guess what? I'm on a mission too, to keep you guys protected. Now, I said, if he was doing his thing and we walked into his space, what would I do? And my son was like, well, you'd be mad at us. I'm like, that's right. Am I mad at you guys? No, we were here first. Yeah, you were here first. You took your spot in the water. You were playing as people were coming in and out of the water. This guy refused to move. And he also made a comment about, well, some people aren't very helpful, whatever. I'm like, take a hike, buddy. I'm on the beach. My family's in the water. There's a pandemic. There's no reason for you to get close to a family hanging out in the water because you're following some grid and you're being inflexible. So anyway, I guess you could say I was being inflexible too, but I was like, what? You see a group of people. That's like, I don't understand. If I went to buy food one day, lunch for the family, and there was a whole whack of people, I kept my distance. I kept 2 meters away. I had my mask and I honored that people's space. Once they were done ordering their food, they moved over and I entered into the ordering area. I don't see what the big deal is. There were people there without masks. Okay, I'm not the mask police. I will keep my distance from you. You will keep your distance from me. And it's all good. You live your life and I live mine. But the minute you come into my space and you disrespect my space because you have an issue, well, then I have an issue now. And so it was interesting. I don't go places thinking I'm going to be like that, but I was mad. I was mad at this guy. I was like, don't talk back to my wife. Don't be rude to my family. They were asking you to keep your distance. They weren't coming near you. You were coming near them. It's whacked, man. There are people out there that just don't care, and that's their business. But the minute they enter into my bubble, then we have a problem. I'm not walking into people's bubbles causing problems. I'm not going into the water, walking up to some dude and his family being like, hey, what's up, this far away from their face. I'm staying in the water. I'm staying on the beach where my bubble is. I'm not going into other people's space. So why they walk into mine, I don't understand. And that's where my problem is. So anyway, I'm going to go back.
I'm proud of you. That's good. Yeah, I'm proud of you. You're not a bubble burster.
I'm not bursting anybody's bubble. I don't want to burst anybody's bubble.
Not burst any bubble.
And you should see every morning when I went out for my exercise, I would see the same people on the beach. And we all gave each other the nod. Like, oh, this guy's back. And it's funny, eh? Because we're walking like this. We're walking, and then we both go like this, and then we come back. It's like this mutual respect. I can dig mutual respect.
That it reminded me. There was that in the beginning, say back March, April, the who's going to get off the sidewalk first dance. You sort of got pretty savvy at noticing someone coming down the sidewalk, and you're sort of trying to measure, did they make eye contact with me? Should I make eye contact with them? And then it's the waiting game. It's a little bit like sidewalk chicken. Like you're sort of slowly coming towards each other. Who's gonna step off to the grass and give the 2 meter distance? Someone on Twitter threw a comment to us. So I just put out there, what stage of planning are you in for your return to school? And dude Jason said, focusing on PPE and ways to keep myself and family safe. Still am unsure as to what I'll be teaching come September. Planning time rules are still up in the air, so holding pattern here. It's got a good gif of Cookie Monster just sort of thinking, tapping his fingers. So we got that going on. I am Karen asked me, she came back yesterday from doing some shopping, and she said, would you say something? Would you say something if someone wasn't wearing their mask properly? And I guess part of it is, my answer was no. Like if I just noticed somebody wearing their mask, just, the chin mask or the the cheek mask, it's off to the side. Have you seen people sort of the mask and they'll put their mobile phone right inside of it?
No, I've not seen that.
Yeah, that's really clever. I saw someone doing hands-free that way. They're just walking around the no frills and they have their mask on and they've just kind of tucked the phone down inside. And I guess that kind of works. And they had it on speakerphone, although I imagine that would be really loud to whoever was listening. Yeah, they had their mobile phone just in their mask. I thought to myself, actually, that to me, what that would do, that would actually hurt my ears. Like if I had that much weight pulling down on the back straps. So yeah, so back to her question, would I say something? And I said, no, I wouldn't. Not if they're just kind of off. And unless they're getting close to my bubble, then I'm probably going to, and I have said this, you need to please maintain some distance, like back up. And if they don't, I got to be honest, I'm going to make a decision. I'm not going to stay and engage. I'm going to move away from them. I'm going to sort of get the space that I need. I get it's different when you're sort of plunked down on the beach. Like you're there kind of first. Someone slowly kind of comes into your space. And someone that's obviously distracted with their own task, which is, I think back to even, late March, early April, how many people would be out on the path that I was walking along quite a bit, and they'd have their headphones on or they'd be just not paying attention. So they were immersed in their task too. Me seeing them coming, here's the kind of irony in this, well, maybe this goes back to what we were saying with taking action, right? And feeling better about taking action. At some point, if I'm watching someone jog up to me and they're not really listening, like they're not seeing me on the path, to stay on the path and hold my position is not a wise position to hold. It's a far wiser. I guess the wiser thing would be to step off the path and yell at them from a distance. Like if we want to be really sort of like, small about it, or it's just to move off the path and let their day go on as it was and continue on with your day and not carry any of the burden of what that interaction is. And I mean, this dude, and not everybody has to share this philosophy, but I think for me, that's the decision to have this philosophy, to just take action, move out of the way, move on. So the person that sort of is walking in no frills, that's, kind of doing the hammock mask, because it's a chin hammock. It's not really a mask. Or they're, they, for whatever reason, they're doing the nose exclusion mask where it's like, I got to cover my mouth, but not my nose. Or just the one that's just like a beard holder. Like I've seen that too, where it's just kind of down, literally beard your size. They have it down underneath their neck and it's holding the hair all up. Like it's the soup, like they're just keeping it out of their food. That's what I actually thought. I thought to myself, they were eating something and all they really wanted to do was keep the beard from dipping in their food. I thought, okay, that's cool too. But if they're getting close to me, I'm going to say something. Here's the second layer to it. Also, in taking my kids with me into these spaces, it's really important for my kids to hear me say something to somebody, because I want them to do the exact same thing. And we've already set them up with basically some reflection questions that they're going to complete in their journal about how was the spacing today? Did everybody wear their mask? We don't want to know the names, but we want to know how many people weren't wearing their mask. How many people were sort of getting inside your space? And my kids are going to be taking notes. And it's our way of doing some sort of preemptive contact tracing, right? Because if that pattern of behavior doesn't change, and like you said, I'm going to engage as a parent, but I'm not going to let go of my knowledge as the teacher. I'm just going to make sure my face is meeting the moment first, but I'm going to let my understanding of, what it means to be in a school and the challenges therein to sort of drive that conversation. And in school, back to Karen's question, I will tell students, put your mask on properly. It's not for your chin. It's not for your mobile phone. Get it up over your nose, cover your mouth. So I know that I'll be doing that space. It's a funny little sort of way we exercise power, right? And I won't say it's a comfort zone, but I just think what I'm doing with my students is also what I do with my own children, is that I'm going to sort of mentor them in decision-making and active decision-making. So
I have to say, I'm 100% with you around people not being aware of their surroundings, if for innocent reasons. Like this guy in the water, there were hundreds of people in the water, and he just assumed people are going to move out of my way. Like, imagine he basically showed up to the beach, and there's a whack of people in the water, and he's going to follow his grid. And there's already people in the water. It's like maybe you might want to consider doing this at a time where it won't be busy in the water. So I totally get it, man. If I totally understand what you're saying. If your people are coming into your bubble and you can get out of the way, great. But sometimes that's a problem. So like if you're so when I went to get food for my family, there's a line. I'm waiting in line to purchase food. I'm aware of the people in front of me and I'm aware of the people behind me. And I'm doing everything I can to keep myself good within that little bubble that I'm in. Now, when the people behind me start to get close and I say, hey, can you back up a bit? I'm not in a position to leave. I'm in line. Well, I guess ultimately I could leave. But then if that happens everywhere I go, then I guess I'm just not getting any food because I'm too busy accommodating all the people that don't want to accommodate me. That doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't work in my little head. I'm minding my own business in my space, and I'm in a position where I'm there to do something or to get something done. I'm not leaving. And this is where common courtesy has to come into play. This is where other people need to be aware and helpful, right? Like as soon as I was done in my spot, I got out of there. I paid for my food and I removed myself until my food was ready. I did this to show respect to the other people around me who maybe were fearful of me not knowing me. And here's the thing. I had my mask on. Right after I ordered and I stepped out of the bubble of ordering food, I took my mask off. It was hurting my ears. I wasn't close to anybody. I wasn't going to be talking to anybody. So I'm like, I'm going to take my mask off. And then when they called my number, I put my mask back on, get my food. I said, thank you. And then I left. And when I was down the street and away from people again, I took it off. I did the hanging from one ear. I unhooked it just so that it wouldn't put stress on my ears and hurt my ears. So when I see other people doing that, for me, it's two big thumbs up, right? Like, thank you. Thank you for doing your part. And even if there were lots of people at the food place that weren't wearing their mask, there were lots of people sitting and eating outside the food place, not wearing a mask. Okay, that's your business. Don't come near me. Two funny things happened. The first one was as I was walking one morning, there was a person walking towards me, an older gentleman. And as we were getting close, I started to expand. Like I started walking on the street because nobody was in the street, no cars or anything. And he's like, excuse me, can I ask you a question? I'm like, yeah, of course. So I didn't have a mask with me, but I was listening to my headphones, so I had to like mute them and say, what's up? And he was asking me about something on the main strip. And I'm like, I'm not from here. I'm sorry, I can't help you. And he was trying to get closer. And I'm like, I kept backing up. So in that situation, I wasn't aggressive. I wasn't like, hey, dude, watch it. I was like, oh, I've got room to back up. He can't hear me because he's an older fellow. So I suspect, like much older, like elderly. I suspect he can't hear me or whatever. He's getting closer and I'm backing up because I can. It wasn't a situation where I had to be aggressive. It was like, no, this is good. This man's not trying to harm me. I didn't feel any harm. And then the second thing, shoot, it's gone now. But there was another moment where somebody was like, oh, out getting food. This is the way it works, right? You're at the beach, you're at the cottage, you have different things for dinner. I went inside this place, I paid for my food, and the lady said, it's not ready yet. I'll bring it out to you in the parking lot. Beautiful. I'm out of here. And there wasn't a lot of room in this place. So I got out of there. And then the next person who was outside waited for me to get outside so they could come in and pay. So I'm out there and I'm minding my own business at my car. And this lady's walking towards me. She's looking at me, she's walking towards me, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, I don't know who this lady is. She was about 2 meters from me when I said, "Can I help you?" And I put my arm out because I'm like, you're way too close. We're outside. You've not acknowledged me at all. I have no idea. Are you just, do you think I'm somebody that I'm not? Like, I didn't get it. And then she stopped. She's like, Roland? And I said, yes. And she goes, do you recognize me? And I said, no. And I was like, I have no idea who you are. So my arm is still out. And I'm like, stop getting close. I don't know who you are. And even if I did, we're not supposed to be any closer than this. She's like, I'm so and so. And I'm like, sorry. And then her husband got out of the car and he gave me a wave. I said, now him I recognize, but I didn't recognize you. So she's a lady my wife taught her child in grade 3 back in the day. And anyway, my wife still talks to this lady and to her child. So it's like they're friendly, but I'm like, I didn't recognize you. I recognize your husband. But it was just like, as this lady's approaching me, she's not saying anything, but she's eyeballing me. And I have no clue. And she didn't come out of the restaurant, so she's not bringing me food or wanting to talk to me about my food. So these are the things that, like, this is what I'm thinking now. I'm like, don't get too close. And it's not really for me, it's for my family. Like, I don't want to have to go back and say to my wife, some lady was talking to me this far away from my face and she wasn't wearing a mask and I couldn't get mine on fast enough. I don't want to have that conversation because this is the new conversation. When I was getting in the car to go get the food, the first thing my wife said to me was, "Do you have a mask?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's in the car." Because, and my wife knows I don't like wearing the mask. Now, I'm not Donald Trump level. I'm not wearing a mask. It hurts my ears. With the facial hair, it bothers me. I don't like to wear the mask. Now, this is setting me up for a whole world of hurt because when I go back to work, I'm going to be wearing a mask all day. I think I'm going to have to go to the bathroom and take my mask off just so I can give my ears a break. Actually, I 3D printed one of these ear savers. So I think this is going to save my life because it really hurts my ears. And my wife bought me really good masks. Like, they're really big so that they cover like most of my beard and my big nose. And they've got adjustable toggles on the ear. So it's not fixed. I can adjust the strain on my ear. But even when they're adjusted and they're loose, it still hurts my ears. So my wife knows this. So I only put a mask on when I'm going to be getting close to somebody or I'm in foreign territory and I don't know what's going to happen. I have my mask, but I don't like to wear it. And it stresses me out. So like going to pick up food for the family stresses me out. And so when I went to this one restaurant, I was wearing my mask, but the lady who was there to take my payment wasn't wearing one. I don't know why she wasn't wearing one. I guess it's none of my business, but I was a little bit like, you're working in a restaurant and you're talking to people all day and people are getting close to pay and stuff and you're not wearing a mask. Like, I just think maybe there's an issue there. I don't know what the issue is. I just wish I had a sticker that said, "Hello, my name's Roland and I hate wearing my mask, but I'm going to do it to make sure you're okay."
That's the I've been listening a lot to and reading Ryan Holiday. So he's that Daily Stoic guy. And there's an episode, and any listeners, anyone else, it's worthwhile to kind of check out. It's Stoicism as a philosophy, and he's got a lot of content, but he sort of puts out a kind of like a daily thought connected with Stoic philosophy. And one of the ones that really he's come back to a couple times is talking about holding the line and the purpose of a shield. And the purpose of the shield is not to, the purpose of the shield in the example that he gave is not to protect yourself. It's because it's a part of a broader system to protect the whole line. So if you are one of the individuals that has the shields, that's sort of the front line of whatever army you're a part of. those shields sort of interlock and sort of like layer and sort of support a whole front, defensive front for anyone that's in the back. And I'm not I don't have a military strategist kind of like a deep appreciation of these things, but I can appreciate that idea of holding the line. And as you said, that you're holding the shield, you're wearing the mask to protect other people, not just yourself. You got me. I can remember a conversation you and I had where you had said how much you enjoyed finally going to Costco. And I think it was your first big outing, and it gave a sense of normalcy to you. It gave you a sense of like you were giving yourself back a gift of your life. Like you were sort of giving yourself back a piece of yourself that you maybe were aware that you weren't doing, but really didn't have a full sense of how impactful it was for you. And a couple of things you said light me up. I think there's going to be a whole lot of people that are just at the end of the day dropping into their car and just pulling off the mask. Students too, they're going to have a space for this where they're going to pull off the mask and they're going to have some sort of an emotional response to that moment. I firmly believe that I will be going out to my car and I will see someone in their car crying, just from going back to the moment that you had, talking about being able to go to Costco of all things, something as mundane as Costco, but just being able to get out and do something that sort of felt like it spoke to your regular way of operating. And I think that people are going to have their spaces where the effect and the actual power of taking off the mask is going to be huge for some people. I think they really will. They're going to get into the space. They're going to take off the mask, whether they're just gulping in the unfiltered oxygen or they can feel the pressure just sort of coming down a little bit on the back of their ears, or just the sense of no longer being a part of that system, that they're now in their own space. They can actually feel like themselves again. I think a lot of people are going to be going through those feels, and I fully expect students will as well. And I think there's something to us cracking open that conversation a little bit as an active measure. How are we going to be supporting those spaces at the same time that we're supporting wellness? And I mean like health wellness. How are we going to support the mental wellness element of that, where people will need it's where to drop the mask. Let's say it. There's our episode title. Drop the mask, right? So those spaces where we feel like we can actually be that vulnerable but safe at the same time, and also to be able to kind of breathe and expand and get back to whatever our personal versions of normal is. And the last thing I'll put on that, like I do when my wife asks me about when I say something to someone about not wearing their mask, part of what's kind of going on in the back of my head when I see someone just I go to No Frills all the time. It's the closest. It's the grocery store I know best. I can strategize. I do the aisles. I know where everything is. So it's just like click clack. I get it done, right? But I see people, all ages, all versions, all looks, that aren't wearing a mask, and I watch their behavior, and I notice other things like they're licking their fingers. They're rubbing their eyes. So they're having all these behaviors that have become completely forbidden to me. Forbidden to the point where I think to myself, I start to say, wow, that is so dangerous. That behavior is so dangerous. Like my brain just starts to kind of, like the sirens are going off. And at the same time, I also have this thought, like, what would it be like to have that mindset? To be that free? And again, I don't stop and talk to them. Maybe I should do a little quick, 2-minute podcast. How do you do what you do? How do you, on my end, it looks like dangerous disregard. But I have to start to wonder, about the freedom of that mindset, because there are people that, despite the fact I said, hold the line, that there's a reason why we wear the mask. It's the shield to protect everybody. But there's an and in that. What if you are the person that's like, I know that my group's going to be okay, and I believe that I'm going to recover from this. And you know what? I'm not, and this isn't me. I'm not talking about the sort of like the rights fighters that are saying it's against my rights. You can't make me wear a mask. I'm talking about mindset here, where you really do just have the mindset that things are going to be okay, and we're going to sort of make it through this. I'm going to make it through this, and my actions are going to be aligned with my thinking. And I have a little bit of envy that I think to myself that they have the type of life and the connections where they can be that person, where they're saying, if I get a cold, if I get sick, I'm just going to keep on, I'm going to deal. Because it feels really like that's really foreign to me.
I'm still stuck on, people crying in their cars after work.
I firmly believe there's like the stress, because the way I look at it right now is that the stress for some people right now is kind of, it's diffused because they can walk around their house. In theory, I know some people can't. I know some people, they can't, but just for those who they can go outside, they can go in their backyard, they can walk to the park, they can go on the sidewalk. They have spaces where the emotionality of this kind of, you know what I mean? Like it dissipates a little bit. When we are officially in school, that system in itself is the ultimate in compartmentalizing. And I think that people at the end of the day are going to be surprised. I'll be watching 4. I know I'm going to go up to a car. I'm going to go up. I'm just going to like kind of just tack, and just like, can I help somehow? And I know people are just I can see the whole thing playing out. There's going to be someone that is having that emotional response to the moment, and we're going to have to support each other.
I'm now thinking that I may need to move away from the mask and get some type of bandana, like one of those things that you just wear around your neck and you lift up and over your nose, because the mask, it's not, first of all, it's wrecking the beard, which is, I know it's like, who cares, right? But at the same time, I kind of care. So I'd rather not wear a mask that cuts everything off here. I'd rather just pull something over my face. And there are stuff out there like that. There are alternatives to the masks. I think I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this thing, see what it does. But I might be moving away from the mask to something that's legitimate. So don't think that I'm just going to like take my shirt and put it over my face all day while I teach. I'm not going to do that. But maybe the mask is not for me. I don't know. There's some different options. I mean, if we're going to be wearing them for a while, I might as well get something that I really like, right? And a few of them, so I can always have a fresh one when I need it.
I just received a email from like a system email, but it's from one of the principals talking about coming back to school. And the language in the email said medical mask.
Oh.
So, just, I keep forgetting where my camera is off at. So just keep that in mind, is that
shoot, you're right, because they're probably gonna, well, maybe, I assume that they're gonna want me to wear a particular item.
Definitely the PPE mandate that's being subsidized by the government. Like they ain't providing bandanas, bro. Like we're not going to get the cool stretchy bandanas.
I just didn't know if there was going to be a standard, like, because I know lots of people have invested in their own.
Oh, heavily. Well,
masks.
even going back to, like Jason, who through the Twitter comment saying focusing on PPE and ways to keep myself and my family safe. Well, what if you arrive with the, you've got your clips and you've got the thing, and they say, well, no, operate, the SOP for this is that we're going to be wearing the school-based masks. And then this ends up potentially being connected with, and if you choose not to, and then you get into some of those, litigation after that, where, you're not wearing the mask that has been identified as the best mask for someone to wear at school. I'm in the big head, big nose, beard zone with you. Like, so I know that stretchy bandana would be way better, way better. Actually, I would love to have someone posted sort of like um, it was like is it like a whole head helmet? Someone posted something like that that just looked amazing. Kind of cyberpunk kind of look. Anyways, yeah, I don't have the money for that, but whatever amounts of my own personal funds that I've put into buying PPE for my family, I'm sure for my kids it'll be fine for them to wear all that, but for myself and my spouse, who's also an educator, I fully expect that we're going to go into the school and they're going to say, here are the masks you have to wear when you're in school.
That's a good point.
And yeah, maybe is this the year? Is this the year when you cut off your beard?
I may have an issue. If somebody tells me my beard has to go, then I might have an issue with them, not with the beard. Because I'm not a cop, right? Like I'm not a cop. I know police officers can't have beards like this because they can't get a good fit with their gas mask on. I've had this conversation with many police officers. I'm not a police officer. I'm a teacher. So if you're going to give me a mask that's going to fit my beard, because I'm not shaving my beard off. That's like, there are certain things I'm not at this moment willing to do for the job that I have. I'm not a police officer. My job is not to go into areas where I need to wear a gas mask. Like, there are some fine lines being drawn here in our profession, and I see some people now saying, I'm not stepping over that line. I'm not stepping over that line. So move the line or accommodate me. I'm not stepping over that line. And that's where, if somebody said, memo came out and said you can't have facial hair or whatever, I'm like, nah, we're going to have to change that, because I don't have a job. That's not what I signed up for. And I know it sounds, even as I say it sounds petty, but at the same time,
I think it's I think it's going to be, I can't see how, from where we sit right now, I can't see it not becoming a conversation point in some way. Whether it's you doing just a self-evaluation saying, well, I feel like I can't ensure a snug enough sort of seal of the mask or whatever you're wearing, right? Whatever sort of face thing you're wearing. It brings to mind just quickly, similar but not same. So last year, the portfolio I was in and providing CPI support, and the group of us that all did CPI support within this program, we had very, distinct conversations around making sure that the hair is pulled back, tied, that we're wearing sort of like a baseball cap, so that if we are engaging in CPI support with a student, that that we would not be inadvertently putting ourselves in danger because our hair was grabbable or sort of. So my shaved head was never an issue. It was counter for some of my colleagues who had longer hair. They had to make sure that their long hair was pulled back, but where they would sort of look at me and they're like, yeah, and Clough, like your beard is now getting grabbable. And that's a truth, right? That's the truth in that, where health and safety, there was no recommendation that I had to keep my beard of a specific length, but I was aware that if I could put my hand in it and grab a handful, that it was potentially something that could be grabbed during an engagement of CPI support, and potentially people could get hurt, right? So it's like I said, I've been in that space in a parallel kind of conversation. I think that there's going to be a whole lot of big bearded people that are thinking to themselves, how do I stay safe and keep other people's, how do I hold the line? There's a couple people that have chimed in on Twitter that are kind of going sideways to our mask safety, but they're kind of focusing in on prep for school, like their role in school. Beth jumped in and said that right now she's trying to create a proposal for what her role as a teacher librarian might look like. And I know that there's a lot of chatter around that. And someone else, Jeff jumped in. He's not doing anything right now because he's not sure what his role will be. So not even coming at it from the health perspective, but coming at it from the perspective of, how can I plan when I know I'm working, doing something, but how do I plan in any sort of direction? Mm-hmm. It's a little bit like the mask conversation. Like we're trying to make the best laid plans for the health, but we don't know what's going to be sort of put in front of us when we walk back in. Some of those emails are just starting to shape now. I get the sense that administrators and system leaders are also being wagged by this exact same staccato kind of information. Like it's not coming cleanly. It's not coming sort of like clearly, and it's hard to sort of put voice to it, especially to thousands and thousands and thousands of teachers that are waiting, educators waiting for some instruction. Kind of comes back to what we said though. What action do we feel like we can take right now? What is the action if we get beyond the, kind of put our hands up and say, what can I do? Maybe just to focus on what am I doing? What are some small actions that can kind of make us feel like we've got some traction on it? Maybe there's something to that, Beth saying that she's putting together a proposal, knowing full well right now that it's not clear what teacher librarians are going to be involved with as far as moving into September. Mm-hmm. She's stepping in, she's taking an action. Here's what I perceive she didn't share the proposal, but here's what I perceive my role to be in this context. No one else has given it to me, so I'm going to step in and say, much like any of the sort of health and return to school things right now, no one else has really given me what I need, so I'm going to do it.
I was just about to say, I'm assuming that the government will give us some more clear answers before we start, but that's not. It just, the whole thing is a rocky road, right? Like the announcement the other day about HVAC systems. Mm-hmm. It's like there's not a lot of understanding about how that works, the time it takes people to come in and work in a school, and like there's got to be a lack of understanding. There's got to be. Because the alternative is that they're just being difficult and causing more difficulty.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, though, I thought to myself, you can't get HVAC. I mean, they said that, sorry, my hat, I think, was hurting my head. They were talking about, the government's working on procurement, but it doesn't matter. How are you going to roll out that much work in 3 weeks, right? So
you're not.
You're not, but the promise is there.
And that's supposed to make everybody feel better, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
Are we gonna, I'm a little bit sad. Are we gonna is this what Decoded Podcast has become? Where we keep talking about COVID-19 and the return to school and the masks and what are we gonna do? Like, I'm feeling like I'm not digging it. Like, I'm enjoying the conversation. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's just, are we the Decoded COVID-19 podcast? Like it's killing me. And maybe it's because school hasn't started. Maybe once school starts, we shift, right? Like we're still in summer school mode, I guess. Night school, summer school, whatever you want to call it. It's not real
summer school. I don't think I definitely don't have any sense of being in a rut. I don't. I think one of the cool things about what we do is we're going to respond to what we got. So we're both speaking from center. Someone wants to jump in and kind of redirect us or nudge us in a direction, we go there too. We both also had experiences past week that are kind of new personal layers to this, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this is an important topic, like where you started with, do you speak up and say something? Because I think this is an important stage that, maybe every educator is in. And let's say there's some, so here's if we go really, let's blow this way out. Let's not talk about COVID at all. Let's make it about the bigger, broader. Let's tie it to equity, which is the other topic that's happening a lot in EDU this summer. Developing our equity, anti-oppression, anti-racist toolkits, and arriving back in school, getting out of the abstract and arriving back in school and doing something. So if we're not talking about COVID and just taking action in some way that makes us feel like we are doing something actively, something that we feel like we've got our hand on the wheel, that we've got some agency and decision over what we're going to do next, as opposed to waiting to be told what to do next, we could sort of take this whole conversation about COVID and empowering ourselves to do something and lay it over the equity growth that many people have spent this past summer in book clubs and reading groups and online in Zooms, talking about some of the broad ways that we can now engage in these conversations in school. More than happy to sort of exist in that space too. But I think it comes back to really the emotional and kind of almost philosophical stance of taking action and doing something when we move forward. Like, that's kind of, it's big and broad and kind of unruly, but it's kind of, I think it's kind of critical to sort of test drive this one, mostly because so many of us are going to be in classrooms where we have to action something. If we're not told, I was playing in some of my poetry spaces talking about it's dangerous to sort of convince that you can compliance train or professionally develop a teacher into a doctor. It was one of the pieces I put out. But I do feel like in some ways there's going to be a very clear expectation that we are holding the line in the classroom. What it might look like I don't know what it'll look like if a kid refuses to wear their mask. I have no clue what I'm going to what I'm going to do with that kid, apart from ask them to put on the mask and then ask for support. To sort of then talk about compliance and say, well, here's how the kid's going to be punished or suspended. Like, so to even go there, I don't know if it's as relevant to me as just saying right now to myself, I'm going to talk directly to that kid and put their mask on, and then I'm going to get on the phone, I'm going to ask for support. Like, that's about as far as I can go into it. So in the same way as I work through some of the new equity and some of the tools and strategies and things I've learned over the summer, I'm going to try them and I'm going to ask for support. And I feel like that's about as I feel that's where I am right now in moving into September. And, good on Beth for, also planning out, proposing, what a teacher librarian would be, and good on Jeff for saying, I don't even think I can do that yet. Like, all of us are in so many different spaces. One of the cool things about Decoded is that, well, we're just like two little teeny tiny slices of this. But I feel like September, as we move out of summer school and into season 4, like that's season 4. We're going to be responsive to what's happening around us. So me in new school, you in your school, work in the system from the inside as we see best. Is it going to be COVID related? Of course. We can decide to take a different topic, but we've never done that. We've always just tried staying close to the bone and talking about what's happening right in front of us. So I do get where you feel like if you're feeling the weariness of talking about it, just say so and we shift. But I think the gravity is going to pull us back here for the next little while. I really do. But I'll respect the choice to not talk about it. I know I've had that people say to me, Clough, I just don't want to talk about this anymore. Back off. I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me.
I'm just feeling like we just keep ending up in the same place. Like, we just keep coming back to the same conclusion. And it is what you just said, that we're now moving to action. And so maybe that'll be it. Maybe we start talking about our actions. But you threw me for a loop there when you talked about PPE that the school will supply. That kills me. I mean, it's good that it's standard. We'll have a standard, but I'm going to have to still find a way to save my ears.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can still wear the ear saver no matter what they give me, because I think that's legit. I got to do something about my ears. It hurts. It hurts. But anyway, it's all good. I'm privileged, 100%. I'm fully aware of that. It's part of my center. I'm in a good place. And so my little issues are nothing compared to what some of the issues are that people are facing, particularly people that have to send their kids back to school because they have to go to work and there's no choice there. Um, I feel for those people. I don't know what that's like. So I'm not going to pretend that because it's not a problem for me, it's not a problem.
Hmm.
That's not the case at all. I actually come from a family, like if this was happening back in the day when I was in school, I would be going to school no matter what. My parents had to work. I mean, there was a time when my mom didn't work. She was a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home spouse, but my mom wouldn't have been able to help my sister and I with our work and my brother. No way. And we didn't even have the internet. So I don't know what they would have done. I don't know what they would have done. Would they have mailed us stuff? I don't know. But my mom wouldn't have been able to help me. But I come from a family where when my mom did work, it's because she had to. There was no way my brother, sister, and myself were going to stay home if schools were open. So that's part of who I am that I've not forgotten, that I honor, is that world of the people that have to work. They don't have a choice. If they don't work, they don't have food, right? Like that's not, and that kills me because it could kill them going to work, kids going to school. Lives can be lost because of that, but that's not their reality. Their reality is, hey, if we don't eat, we're going to die. So we're going to do what we need to do to eat, and then we'll play with the rest as it comes. But that's when that's your focus. What the rest of us are doing is not cool. The privilege we're living is not cool when there are people who are actually living a life or death situation. So for me to go to Costco and feel like the world opened up again, you know, that doesn't hold water with someone who's got to go to work every single day and is like, I can't wait for school to open because like my kids will be somewhere and I will be somewhere and that's how we eat. I get it. I get it. But I'm also a dad and I want to take care of my kids too. So instead of just, I need to use my privilege to speak for those who don't have a voice. And I think I'm getting used to doing that as one way. It's one thing I can do as someone who is in a privileged situation is to speak for those who don't have a voice, or to use the little bit of power and authority I have to be able to express um, my thinking around how those people are living and try to make change. Um, and I think as a teacher, that's one of the best things about my job is that parents will share things with me and then I will bump that up to my leadership and say, this is what's happening. We need to do something. What can we do to make this better for these people? And sometimes we just make things better without even going up there, right? We do things to help other people. And I remember years ago, I worked with a person who transferred schools and I was teaching a child who that educator had the year before. And the first thing when I met up with this educator a few months into the new school year, they gave me two big garbage bags of clothing. And they said, you have to give this to so-and-so's family. And I said, oh, why? And that's when the information was passed on to me that these people don't have money for clothing. This is not where they put their money. And they made it clear to me that that's not where they put their money. And now that I understand their situation, I have clothing that don't fit my kids anymore that will fit their kids. And now they don't need to even think about clothing because here's two bags of clothing. And I said, do they know that this is coming? And they said, no, just drop my name and it'll all be good. Because I said, I don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes, right? I don't want to, these people haven't expressed this to me. I don't want to do that, right? To their dignity and whatever. So I bring to school. I see the mom in the morning and I say, hey, just so you know, I saw so-and-so the other day and their face lit up. They're like, "You talk to them?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're buddies." And the mom was like, "Oh my God, they were such an angel to us last year." And I said, "Well, hey, you got me now. I'm happy to help too, if that's okay with you." And she's like, "Of course, anything you can do." I'm like, "I got two boys, I can help." Um, I said, "There's two full garbage bags in the classroom. Take them whenever you want." She's like, "Can I get them now?" I said, "Yeah, when the bell rings, come in with us. I'll give you the bags." And it was like, we can do that. You and I, we can do that. We're in a position to help like that. But sometimes the help that people need is bigger than what we can do. And that's when we reach above. And I have to say that in all my years as a teacher, with all the administrators I've worked with, the ones I've respected, the ones I've not respected, I have to say that all of them have consistently stepped up and helped, um, in situations that I've been privy to make life a bit easier for families that, um, are not as privileged as we are, or don't even understand the privilege that people like you and I have. They
Mhm.
can't even comprehend it, right? But man, it comes from the heart. All this stuff comes from the heart, because I was that kid. I don't know about you, but I was the kid that I was going to school. Whether there was a disease or virus, I was going, because my parents had to work, or else we wouldn't have a place to live. We wouldn't have food. So I try to use that to guide me, because I thank God every day that I don't live like that anymore. And in fact, one of my goals in life, when I do go back to that place in my head, was to make sure that I grew up to have a job where I didn't have to live like I lived. That's one of my main goals. I
Hmm.
don't, yeah, and it's funny because my wife's perspective is completely different. My wife grew up in a middle class home. Both of her parents were teachers, and they skimped here and there because they were putting their money elsewhere. I find out now that they were doing everything they could to pay off their mortgage so that they would pay that off and then live a life of like not having to pay a mortgage. But my wife came from a different place. I don't think there was ever scarcity like there was in my house. So the scarcity in my wife's house was, we can buy more food, but we're not going to waste our money on food we're not going to eat or whatever. We're going to give you what you need to survive. Whereas I look at it as my house, it was like, am I going to have what I need to survive? Like, it's not a matter of yes, you will. It's a matter of, will I? I never really, and we weren't living in poverty, but there were times where I would recall, like, I would hear my parents fighting over paying the bills. I would see the stress that, my kids don't see when a bill comes in the mail. Like, I would see the stress on my parents. I would hear them argue about money. All that stuff was real to me. And I remember thinking, whatever I do, I need to grow up and have a job where I don't have to worry like they're worrying now, where I don't have to argue like they're arguing now. And it's all relative, right? It's all relative. But I don't live that life. I was able to avoid living that life. And here I am teaching kids who, in more ways than one, remind me of me, the way they look, the lifestyle they're living. Seeing some of them are really resilient and some of them are not. And I remember not being very resilient as a kid. I was worried. And I never really told my parents that. I couldn't. I wasn't in a place to be open and sensitive like that. As a Middle Eastern child with Middle Eastern parents who came from the war or whatever, it's like, you don't open up like that. And if you do, it's rare, right? Like, I guess I could have tried it, but I don't know if it would have worked. So this is a weird time to be living, but I'm on the right. I'm exactly where I wanted to be, in a position where I don't have to worry. We've talked about this before. Like, look, I'm podcasting in one room in my house that's got a ton of rooms in it, right? I'm in one room talking to you. My son's in another room watching the internet. I have a washer and a dryer in the other room where I can clean my clothes wherever I want. Like, there's all kinds of I think when I really center myself, that's where I come from. I come from that place. And I'm trying not to let it go to my head, right? Because I could easily forget about it all and just put it aside, be like, that was my life. That's not my life anymore. But it's part of who I am. And I guess because I'm a teacher, because I'm in education, it's always at the forefront, right? Because we don't pick and choose who we get to work with. Every year we're given, 20 new kids as a primary teacher. Here's your class. You don't pick and choose who you're working with. This is who you're working with. And that could come with a whole lot of problems and a whole lot of blessings, right? Depending on how you look at it. I was talking to a friend about the last school I worked at and how I found myself at one point in my 3 years there where I was working to pay my mortgage. That's why I was going to work, because the negatives far outweighed the benefits at that time with my class composition and my work environment and stuff. And like saying it's not embarrassing, but it's a little bit sad that it had come to that point where I literally, as I tell you this, and as I was talking to my friend about this, I'd park my car, walk into the building, and as I'm unlocking my classroom door, I'm thinking to myself, you can get through this day. You will get through this day. And you can't not go to work. Like, this is the self-talk. You will get through this day. You have to be here. So whatever's creeping into your mind, push it out now. You have to pay for the mortgage, and your kids like to live the life that they're living in the house that you're in. So this is it. And I think I told myself that for like many months. And it's just because of the context I was in. And I hope many people don't have to experience that, but I did. And it sucked. Imagine going to work and once I would get rolling, it was good. Once the day would start and I would be doing something with the kids and the kids would respond and engage and innovate and create, it was good. But there was always, for every group of innovation, there was a group of disruption and chaos and sabotage. And that was my day. And I tried to always end it with more balance of the creation and the innovation and not the chaos and the disruption. But that was where I found myself. Even at that lowest moment of my professional work, it still doesn't compare to like a 9-year-old Roland who's hearing his parents, get lit up and kind of argue about the bills that need to be paid. That's not, it can really boost a kid. It could damage a kid. You never know with kids anymore. You don't know, right? You could do something to them and think you're doing the right thing, and then years later you find out they hate you for it or whatever. I didn't mean to go down that road. It just...
No, you got me thinking though, the value of bringing those parts of you to the classroom. So, someone else, I mean, this thought is, I guess it's always occurring to me, but it was brought to mind with chatter online about books that have had influence on you. And someone dropping the name of a book that I read when I first started teaching, and I didn't have any place to put it. Like, I didn't have any place to put that information. I didn't know how to harmonize, who I'd learned to be in life with the experiences that helped shape me, with the expectations of my job as a teacher. Like I didn't have any sense of how do you bring whole self to the classroom. And there's one thing that I can say with assurance, after spending, in the minimal sense, 3 seasons talking with you, is that you are in touch with elements of your whole self that you just don't get out of faculty. Like you did, these things aren't, the information's there, like the raw ingredients are there, but there isn't the refinement that you can turn it into reflective practice and actually benefit the kids in front of you. So that's basically all I have to say with, the story and the scope of your observations there is that there's absolute value in your life story as not only, for you to sort of understand it at a deeper level and to sort of see yourself in the story and where you don't want to be in the story, like to feel like you have choice to sort of position yourself within the story just in order to understand it from different places, definitely will help kids. Someone mentioned in another online conversation around having a lot of tears right now and saying that they're kind of find themselves apologizing for the tears. And I mentioned to them, I said, but there's value in having those tears, because I think tears are a part of a wellness strategy, and they help you to sort of figure out how you could support somebody else in that exact same position. Like the thoughts that come along with tears could be valuable to somebody else. So the thoughts that you have that have come along with the life you've lived, and you sort of laying that against the experiences that you see your students going through, that's the source code for connection, right? Maybe you've read a book that'll help you too, but really it's those life experiences and being able to feel like you can share parts of those mean that your whole self is coming to the classroom. And that's pretty amazing.
It's even more important now that we've been doing some reading around racism, and the book study, the book club for men that we've been part of has been influential in helping me shift to a different mindset and to be open to who I really am. And that's good because it helps center me. It helps center, maybe not me, but in my positioning around different topics, I feel like I'm getting to my center. And then whether my center is right or wrong, at least it's my center, right? So it's like I'm doing something that I have not done in a long time. Now, I know for many years I've tried to live my life based on what I value the most. And that's kind of similar to centering yourself, because at the end of the day, all you have is what you value. So in a different way, for me, speaking from center ensures that I am considering different things that I've never considered before. Like, it's so easy for me to be able to say, well, who cares that someone, like, who cares what their situation is? This is my situation. But that's a very selfish perspective. And it's a perspective that if people had done that to me, then would I be here today? Mm-hmm. And it's like, that really sucks. That if I'm like that and that's going to interfere with somebody else achieving or moving in a positive direction, I don't want to do that. So, but that's me, like, from center and acknowledging what has helped make me.
I think the centering, my very simple sort of like challenge that has come away from, in the least, the book club, is also that, sure, the centering has allowed me to see more of my story, but recognizing it's not everybody's story or the whole story. So you're welcome to feel as grounded, as ego-centered in whatever you discover about yourself. But, don't make the mistake of assuming that everyone else operates that way. So
I think we had a good rebound there at the end.
Yeah.
Even though I was
gonna say time for lunch.
Time for lunch. Before we go, we've had several people jump in and out. So we've had viewers today. They just haven't left any comments. Maybe next time, because it's always good to be able to see what people are saying and then discuss it. Can we check out your art before we shut things down? Is that a storm? Like radar and a storm around the radar?
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Something like that. Cool. Thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
And thanks for being available to chat this morning, even though I wasn't supposed to be chatting this morning.
No, I'm happy it worked out for sure. So be well. Have a good weekend, and I know we'll chat soon.
Yeah, same to you, buddy. Talk soon.